imagination simply contained in the mind? Or does it tap into an unseen world with messages waiting to be told? There is a place where legends cross over into our world, where strange visions and whispers beckon, and superstition takes hold. Step into the Black Cat's shadow.
Welcome back to the Black Cat's Shadow, a podcast where we talk about some of your favorite horror movies and how they parallel mythology, urban legends, folklore, and true crime. And this is episode 18, and we have a special episode this week. We're going to be doing an interview, our very first interview, with a couple of independent filmmakers, and we're going to let them tell you about their film and any other projects they have going on. And as always, joining me is my co-host, Dakota. How's it going tonight, Dakota?
It's going great. Had a couple good experiences today, some scary ones, and kind of ready to do this interview. Excited to do the first interview of this podcast. It's not my first interview ever, but first interview for a podcast, that's for sure.
Yeah. All right, so without further ado, we'll go ahead and get our guests on here. So first from Ontario, Canada, we have D. How's it going today, D?
Oh, it's pretty good. Yeah, things are going well for me.
Good. And then we also have Dave. How's it going today, Dave?
It's horrific as always.
So Dakota, well, first of all, D or Dave, whichever one wants to chime in, just give us a quick description of the plot of Scars and what each of your role was in making it.
Yeah, so I'll start with that. So,
okay.
Scars, came from my teeny tiny little brain here, kicking it down in my house here in Texas, and doing all kinds of fantastic R.L. Stine type writing, realizing that I need to really up my game. I got to get out of this poetry realm. I need to get into more of a short story, Edgar Allan Poe, H.P. Lovecraft mentality. And so I conjured up these ideas for a story of a girl who comes home very distraught and distressed with life, and really put the aspects into play of somebody who's mentally abused and yet physically abuses themselves. And so I wrote a story of a girl who comes home, and she's, she does self-infliction. She takes her pain out on herself, but not before getting some sort of Twilight Zone-ish encounter. Somebody shows up and kind of tries to talk her out of it, and the story really started to come together when I started thinking about the whole good versus evil, right versus wrong mentality, and how everybody has been in that situation before of wishing someone can make the decision for them. And the true climax of this story was you really don't know who's making the decision. And so I met up with D and just kind of shared the story with him. I had a very basic storyline. I really, when I write, I give a beginning, a middle, a climax, and end. I always put a twist. But D, having other experience in writing films, was able to take my story and really fill in the parts that were missing, and to build it up from much more of a 3-minute story into something pushing 7-8 minutes. And then I'll let D take it from there.
Yeah, he came to me with the story, and I was like, oh, that's actually really good, what else he got? And I was looking at his stuff, and I was okay, I could probably do something with this, because I really dug his writing and stuff, and I still dig it today. So I read it, and I was like, damn, okay, I could probably do this. It takes place in one location, and I could probably assemble some actors, and first-time actors as usual, because we don't have actors around this area. So I found people that were willing to do it and everything. We rented an apartment, and basically I wrote the script, adapted it from his original story. It was probably about 6 pages long after that. maybe 7, who knows. But yeah, I got the actors together, rented the apartment, and we figured out how to do it.
Awesome. Yeah, well, it's awesome when you find other people that you can draw from, especially, in your craft, you can find other artists that can add to what you're doing already and make something better. So that's always cool to find that. Let's see, Dakota, you had some questions for them.
My very first question for you guys is, what was your main source of inspiration for this story? Did you pull inspiration from, your own, personal experiences, or was it something that just kind of, popped into your head?
I took my inspiration directly from Dave's writing. I took all his plot points and stuff like that and adapted it, and I figured, this is really good. I'm going to just up the ante a little bit and, put a little more focus on the bad guy, the antagonist, and a little more focus on the good entity, whatever it may be, guardian angel, guardian, and just kind of elaborate on what he had written already.
Yeah, the original interest for the story, everything I write has a lot of emotion into it, and Dee's even quoted it as some of my stuff being dramatic. And a lot of, Edgar Allan Poe is my favorite writer, and ever since, growing up reading Poe, he's always have so much emotion in there. And so taking, the writing that I love to read along with the stuff that I like to watch, which of course is horror, but also in a very Twilight Zone-ish type world, I like to think outside the box. And so when I'm writing this story, of course, I take personal things involved with me, things I've heard from other people, things I've seen, and I put that own little twist on a what-if situation. And then at that point, just find a director who can see kind of what I'm trying to put down, and basically, picture's worth 1,000 words, but in this case, it could be a 7-minute movie.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely for being such a short movie, you see a lot of your characters come to light, especially your main character, but you can see the pain in her face, just that's the acting there, but through the writing, you can kind of see where it's headed just from the very beginning. It's like this girl is very distraught. As far as the directing goes, what was her main inspiration that you told her to go for with that?
I just wanted her to act really depressed and hurt. I told her, we're going to get you, if you can't actually cry, we're going to get some natural tears. We'll get it going. We just need you to sniffle a lot, and just try to show a lot of emotion in your face, because we're actually going to do all the sound later on. So we're basically just shooting video. So I'm going for looks right now. I'm going for expression, and we'll add the inflection and any other things that we needed in post-production for ADR for her voice acting and everything like that.
Yeah, and Dave, I really did like this character. How did you actually come up with the idea for her?
I originally started out with this story as something I thought I was going to film myself. So I basically took the emotion and the mentality from myself and threw it into the character of my wife, believe it or not. And that's how I created Faith.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and what exactly was your guys' budget for this?
Oh, geez, the budget? I make a lot of low-budget, no-budget stuff, and I try to make it look as epic as possible. The budget on here must have been I don't know, if I was to guess, maybe $180, maybe around there.
So definitely
believe it or not.
those Taco Bell dinners.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. I mean, what you created, it's it definitely, you would think that you spent a lot more money on it from just the visual effects that you see and things like that. So as far as writing a short film or short story as opposed to a longer movie or a longer story, what kind of different challenges do you face with a short story or short film?
So with writing, just because that's the way my mind works, I really don't enjoy writing long, drawn-out things. I feel like you can lose an audience very fast that way. That's why when I started writing, I started with poetry, because I thought if I could write stories that rhyme, people would actually pay attention to them. And even though they may particularly not like to read, so per se, if I can just capture, wow, that was really unique how he rhymed that, and it's still telling a story, let's see where it goes. And so when I took that same concept of, okay, I'm going to write stories, but I'm going to make them short and sweet. Anything I write is never going to be bleak. You're never going to get a boy meets girl, somebody dies. Like I said, a beginning, a middle, and end, and I'm going to give you a twist. My favorite thing to do is to dip into the psychological aspect and to basically trick the viewer into seeing something that they don't even know what's real and what's not, to the point where they're almost beating themselves up because they feel like they should have seen something coming all along. And then at that point, you just take the writing style and you hand it over to somebody like D, who can take the words and basically manipulate a vision, and having the experience he has, especially with visual effects and directing, and make something pretty awesome out of it.
Yeah, and when dealing with a short story like that and adapting it and making it longer, I actually envision this stuff in my head. I could totally see things that are on the page and yet not on the page. So I'm reading it, it's like, okay, I'm going to add this to it. And I could totally see it happening. It's like, now I got to make this work. Basically, I got to make that exact shot that I see in my head. And what you see in this movie are things that I saw in my head. Believe it or not, as a visionary, a director, you must know the look you're going for, and all that kind of stuff. So paying attention to your mind's eye.
No, that's awesome. I mean, because I could see one challenge in a short film would be developing like character depth, and one thing that I noticed right away was there was depth of character with everybody in the film. Like I want to see more of these people, these characters, especially I feel like one of the characters especially could be like a very iconic character, and is very like scary, creepy. So definitely kudos to you guys for that. How long from like pre to post production did it take you to actually make this movie?
Oh man, I think it was under a month. Totally under a month. Maybe it was like 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks, maybe 3. I was working pretty quick because I had just finished Border Patrol, and started this one right away. Or actually, even before I released Border Patrol, like 2 days prior to the release, I was already working on this. So yeah, it's I always set myself dates to like release dates, and work very hard to get things done way ahead of time. So yeah.
Okay. Yeah. No, I mean, it doesn't look like a rush production, so I'm surprised that it didn't take you that long. So that's awesome. Was there any like scenes that you had to delete, or did you pretty much keep everything that you filmed?
Yeah. Okay. Well, there's probably about an hour of raw footage. A lot of funny stuff, like really funny stuff. What else can I say? It was about an hour of raw footage. I'd like Dave to see sometime, because he'd pretty much laugh his ass off watching it.
Yeah, we call that a blooper reel.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, that would probably be fun. But then, you don't want to take away from the feel of the movie either by having. Right. I mean, yeah. But yeah, I mean, one of the things that I noticed from this, from an effects standpoint, I mean, the visual effects were awesome. I mean, do you have a background with the visual effects?
Yeah, I've been doing. It started out with Photoshop, actually, doing Photoshop stuff and seeing how realistic I could make changes to a face and stuff like that. And eventually, that shifted over to morphing, doing photomorphs, and then learning from there how to attach photomorphs onto video. And then from there, it went on to tracking, like motion tracking and stuff like that. And also hiding things that shouldn't be seen, like, I don't know, like extension cords and stuff like that really shouldn't be in the shot.
Right.
So yeah, I actually do have quite the background in VFX work. Also did some work in the States as well. A movie called Stick to Your Guns by Grant Johnson. So I did some VFX for that as well. So that was back in 2015. But ever since I started, I knew it was eventually going to go over to working on video effects. Because when I first started Thunderstriker Films, I was like, well, I want to be a filmmaker. I do, but I wanted originally to have like an effects house where people, the cheapest effects, yet a lot of bang for your buck kind of thing.
Oh, okay.
It didn't really pan out, except for doing my own work, which is fine, and I'm happy doing my own VFX for my movies and stuff, so it's cool.
Yeah, man, it's got to save you a lot of money doing it yourself.
It does. Yeah.
Yeah, and you mentioned that you did the sound separate from the filming, and I have to give you props on the sound design. I think it sounds great. It sounds like you had a microphone right there.
All right, cool. We just did shot video that night, and we had to leave everything over to ADR. Reason why was because just after our first intro shots, we lost our recorder. We ended up with a full card, and that's never happened. So it's all right. We're gonna have to just go with in-camera audio, and then go over to audio dialogue re-recording in post. That's the only thing we can do, and it all worked out.
yeah, definitely.
The film definitely seems like it'd make a commercial success. Have you guys ever thought about making it a little bit longer of a film and taking it to a festival?
Yeah, I've submitted it to 2 festivals right now. The thing is, I would submit it to more, but a lot of them aren't free. So I had to pay out to a couple festivals already, and I'm keeping my eye out for the free ones, which I haven't seen come up yet for horror. Okay. But I've paid into a couple already, and we'll see what happens with that.
And there's a Panic Fest here in Kansas City. I don't know if you heard about that one.
Oh yeah, cool.
Okay, being a writer myself, I tend to look outside for my inspiration. I understand when you're looking inside, you kind of see like your own monsters, and we've talked about this before in our podcasts, talking about like psychological horror. I write psychological thrillers and crime novels myself. What kind of monsters did you kind of bring out? I know you took inspiration from your wife, but did you find any of your own monsters in your writing?
Yeah, the story I wrote, A Solution to Sadness, it's a little different from the Scars film. Dee took what he needed to take with that and was able to really amplify more terror into the film. The story I wrote definitely evolved, kind of like you said, internally. And I got to say, when I was writing it, I was having a lot of fun with the demonic presence in the film there. And when I was writing it, the whole time, I'm writing these lines as if I'm saying them myself. And I feel like I have like like Rod Serling over my shoulder being like, yeah, that's a good evil right there. You're doing a good job.
Yeah, definitely this creature, this demon-like figure was very, very intimidating. What was his name? Did you guys give him a name in the film?
Mm-hmm. The original name that was in the story and the script was actually Vincent, so you'll find that I'm pretty sure I listed in the credits.
It is.
If you guys want some backstory, the reason I wrote that character as Vincent is because I love Vincent Price, and he's very demonic too.
Oh, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, definitely. No, I mean, he's definitely an iconic, horror film star, and so I think, that's a great influence to pull from. And especially you mentioned Rod Serling, I think this definitely, you can see the Twilight Zone in this film, and that's great for me. Me and Dakota, we love that kind of stuff.
And that was the thing too with the Dave had mentioned, it leaves people wondering like what just happened, and they got to sit and think about it. So wow, I've actually heard that from a couple people already, where there's like, wow, that was a really cool ending, and it left me kind of, whoa, what happened? That was really awesome. Now I got to watch it again.
Exactly.
That was a nice twist at the end.
Yeah, you make something that people want to see more of, and so that's a success, I think.
The next one I really got is where do you guys see you guys going from here? Where do you guys see your next adventure?
Well, I'm working very, very hard to get to actually be the man in Canadian horror. So I got some really, really brutal stuff coming. Probably, hopefully, we could get 7 films shot in 2017. So very busy. Always writing. Also, me and Dave are probably going to join up again for another horror movie as well. So look forward to that. Should be a goodie.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can promise you that this is just the first thing you've seen for the Terror Brothers. This very much was kind of a trial and error thing from Dee and myself to really see how we mesh, and if we can really see eye to eye on this and get the words into film and see if we can attract an audience. It's been on YouTube for about a week or so now. Views they're slowly climbing. They're getting up there. Hope they continue. Be great if it blows up, but I'm definitely going to take with what we have with this one. And Dee doesn't know it yet. So, and then Black Cat here, you're gonna get the first to hear about this. But I've been working on some stuff under my belt, very very dark, and I may be presenting Dee with some anthology ideas.
Oh, that's
Cool.
awesome.
How many scripts do you guys have in the make right now, like that are just kind of like sitting there?
I would have to look.
I was going to say, I think I just saw Dee's head explode.
Yeah, I have about 5 going right now.
So you mentioned like these other films that you've worked on, and Thunder Striker Films is the production. Is that your production company, Dee?
Yeah,
Okay.
and I started that in 2009. As believe it or not, I was going to be a funeral director, and I went to a film festival here in Thunder Bay, Ontario. And I really was enthralled with what I saw. I was like, "Damn, I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna get into film," and I did. And I was looking for a name. I was like, "Well," start googling names and thought of maybe Thunder Striker. That sounds really different. And I was like, "Well, I'm big into sound, so hence Thunder, Striker, and put it together. That's what we got today. That's where we are."
Oh, awesome! Yeah, I mean, it's awesome when you. You figure out what you want to do and you just go after it and you make it happen. I mean, it's got to be the best feeling in the world.
It is. Yeah, I've come a long way since shooting tourism videos back in the day.
Oh, yeah. So I noticed you guys do have a YouTube channel for Thunder Striker Films. There's some of your other films are on there. I actually watched Fallacious, and that was a really creepy killer kid film. It has a great Halloween vibe. Everybody should just go to the Thunder Striker Films YouTube channel, and I'll put a link on the description. I'll put links on there for everybody on there.
Yeah, that's actually really cool that you saw that and you liked it. It's very Halloween feeling because we shot that in April, believe it or not.
Wow. Well,
we shot it in April. It was nice to be mentioned in reviews alongside of John Carpenter.
Yeah, that's what they did with Halloween 1978. They filmed out a season. So yeah, you're in good company there.
I just want to give you guys props. You guys really did blow me out of the water. Just one of those things. I mean, I've had a lot of dealings with people with issues like this, with the self-harm issues, and seeing it come to life with this character. I would have loved to read the script. I would have had more emotions coming from the script along with the film. But you guys did amazing. I gave it a 10 out of 10, honestly, to be quite frank. So, but I was just glad I got to talk to you.
Well, it's really been an honor to be on the podcast because I'm just starting to get out there and be heard and be seen and stuff. So it's really nice to get the attention from people that have podcasts and people that do reviews and articles and stuff. So yeah, thank you very much.
And I'll definitely say the same thing. I really enjoyed Scars, and I'm looking forward to seeing what you guys do in the future, each one of you. And I want to give each one of you the opportunity to give us a link wherever people can go to find out more about you guys.
Cool. For Dave here, if you want to see more stories like that, darker, lighter, and indifferent, I am on Twitter at Phantom Dark Dave, as well as my Wattpad, WATTPAD. It's a free app to download. You search Phantom Theories, you will find tons of material and some more upcoming stuff.
Yeah, and you can find me on Twitter at DMcCullay, also on Instagram at DMcCullay. You can find me on Facebook at DMcCullay Dark History, and also Thunder Striker Films on Facebook.
All right. Thank you guys for joining us today on the podcast and letting us talk to you. It's really cool to get an opportunity to let independent filmmakers, share what they're doing and give you guys a voice, and we want to help you guys promote your stuff, what you're doing. Because I feel like you don't. Sometimes independent artists, whether it be musicians, filmmakers, whatever, sometimes you just don't get a fair shake because nobody knows who you are. So I definitely want to. So that's one of the things that we definitely want to be doing is helping you guys like you get your voice heard.
Yeah, for sure. And your podcast stood out to me. I was talking to a lot of people, and I was like, I really want to talk to these guys. As I said before, I'm a Edgar Allan Poe advocate. I'm like, it's called Black Cat. My favorite story from Poe is the Black Cat. I got to get on this thing. And I told D, and D's like, let's do it.
Yeah, so that's awesome, guys. Looking forward to talking to you guys on the next time you guys got something coming out.
Cool.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Talk to you guys later.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, guys.
And we want to thank you guys for listening to this episode. And as always, you can find us on social media. You can find us on Facebook and Horror Amino. So just search for Black Cat Shadow. And you can also find us on Twitter at Black Cat Podcast. If you'd like to give us an email to say hi or to give us a show idea, or just any feedback that you have, you can email us at blackcatpodcast@gmail.com. And our website is www.blackcatshadow.com, where you can find links to our podcast, our YouTube channel, and our eBay movie store. So remember, guys, to take a closer look at the world around you, and you may just find that it is stranger and more mysterious than you thought, especially in the Black Cat Shadow.